Hello, I'm Colin Green, and you are listening to Spike Pit. Hope this episode finds you well, folks. I am on a bit of a break from school at the moment and have been getting lots of gaming in. So what should we talk about first? Well, last time I was talking about board gaming, so let's round that subject out quickly. 2-player games, I mentioned them. They still seem to be the thing that's getting to the table for me, playing different games with different members of my family. My abstract strategy, enjoyed a few games of Pentago yesterday with my daughter. She tends to like the abstract strategies, although I can get her to play some other games now and then, but I'm happy to play whatever she likes to play. And Pentago, it's a kind of 5 in a line type of game, you like a Connect 5 with quadrants of the board that turn round, and you're placing these black or white marbles, each player being one or the other, and you're trying to create 5 in a line. Simple as that. The fact that the quadrants of the board rotate means there's a certain territorial issue going on. You can't, each turn you're placing a marble and then rotating one of the quadrants. That quadrant can't then be touched a second time by your opponent, so there's a little bit of blocking with the movement going on, and you have to be able to visualize what's going to happen as different parts of the board are rotated. And people that can't visualize, this can be a little bit challenging, but I like it. It's a good simple game. The other game I managed to get to the table that I hadn't played for ages is a Bruno Catala's Raptor, where it's 2 teams, asymmetrical powers. It's a raptor and her babies, a mother raptor defending her babies from a team of scientists. It could be an abstract strategy game, really, but it's got this pasted on theme, but they've done a nice job of it. You've got little miniatures, you've got a little bit of scenery that you move about, and it's a card playing game, asymmetric decks. You secretly pick a card from your hand that's going to be your action, and that gets played against the card that the opponent's made. And it's this idea that you're trying to guess what your opponent's going to do next and try not to be too predictable with your card playing. I think the numbers on the cards run from 1 to 8, and the number is the amount of actions you get, and then each card also has like a special move. If you play the highest card, you get that player gets to do their actions, and then the other player who played a lower action card gets to do their power. And typically the better powers come with the lower amount of actions. So it gives you some really interesting decisions. I believe my version was Matago Games. I don't know if it's still in print or where you can get it or anything like that. But at the time, I think is it Bruno Cathala and Bruno Feduti and Cathala both worked on it, maybe. Could be wrong. Couple of French designers, and when it came out several years back, a while ago now, and there you go. Of course, my phone never normally rings, but guarantee it's going to ring when I'm trying to record a podcast, and I have totally lost my thread, and this is guerrilla podcasting. I'm not going to go back and listen like a professional, figure out where I left off. I think I was talking about Raptor. I think I was talking about where you might be able to get it, but I'm not sure. So, keeping it real, moving on to wargaming now. Regular listeners will be aware that I like a little bit of Dragon Rampant. Osprey Games, Dragon Rampant. Recently, they brought out a second edition Lion Rampant. I think I talked about it. Really nice production values. It's now a hardback. They've added in some really nice Osprey style art. Super detailed, lavish, rich kind of artwork. And man, they've done such a nice job of it. I can't remember what I paid. I paid less than £20 for this book, and I think it might have been £15, I think. And it's just been great value. I've played 3 games with my youngest whilst I've been having a few days off for half term. We've got it to the table 3 times. Each time I've played different armies. So I've had my retro orcs. This is an all-led army from the 80s. Vintage kind of Games Workshop. Real fun, nostalgic army for me to get out on the table. Shockingly bad paint job, I would say. Well, of its time. Tidy enough, but a lot of the miniatures are fairly identical to each other. But I don't know, it just gives me a bit of a warm, fuzzy feeling getting them out on the table. I've put them on round bases. And they're not as I had them in the 80s. Some of them have been stripped and tidied up. But that's one army. Another army I played with yesterday was my Wood Elves. This is an army left to me by my good buddy who moved to Norway. He was cutting back on his stuff and he gave me a bunch of his old gaming stuff. His armies gave me just loads. He gave me loads of stuff, and this is a kind of ragtag selection that he picked up in eBay auctions, and I'm not even sure he actually got much use out of them. It was at a time where we were towards the end of our Warhammer time. We were starting to do our own things, and he was building this army, and we were playing short Warhammer games. I forget what they called it now. Like 500-point armies, which is roughly the third of what a typical army was at the time. And the games played a bit quicker, and we were playing those. So this is a leftover from then. We played a scenario from the book, which was a sort of you have roughly a half of your army, the defenders, on a central location in the board. You play on a sort of a 4x4, 4 foot by 4 foot size table for this scenario, and you're kind of defending it. And if any of the enemy get to this, what we had like a sacred tree defended by the Wood Elves. If anybody gets onto that, instant loss for the defenders. And for the defenders to win, they need to destroy half of the points value of the attacker. We played that scenario and had a whale of a time. It was some different troops for me. A light infantry with mixed weapons is something I've been experimenting with. So I had light infantry with mixed weapons. I had some heavy foot, which is kind of armoured up elves with shields and spears. They can form into like a spear block, which is called wall of spears in the game. And then I had some like these little tree men guys. I forget what they were in the Wood Elf army because I never played it. I don't know if they're supposed to be like little tree men, which obviously they're not going to be called little tree men. I don't know if they're supposed to be dryads, but that doesn't really seem right. But I used them as warriors because they've got like a ferocious charge. They're a little bit more berserk. So I had these guys, I had some war dancers. So the war dancers were a troop type called warriors. And these little tree guys, they're a little bit like blights if you're playing D&D. That's kind of what they make me think of. And I gave them the armoured status, which is an upgrade that I thought reflected the character of these being like woody, bark-skinned up kind of warriors. So you pay some extra points and then they get an uplift in their armour rating. What else did I have? I can't remember. So I think I just had those 4 units. Really interesting game. Lots went on. And then today I got out a real mobile army. This is another army of goblins back into the 80s with some old 80s wolf riders. Fielded them as light. I fielded them as heavy 2 units of heavy cavalry with armour, shields and spears. Kind of they fit the description in the rules of heavy cavalry, because you've got elite cavalry that is heavier still. And then I had some light wolf riders that lack the armour, lack the shields, and they run about on bows, kind of like horse archers would be the historic equivalent. So 2 types of cavalry, and then a pair of chariots, which are heavy cav with an armour upgrade, and they can't go over linear obstacles or difficult terrain. I played that, absolutely got annihilated by my son, who fielded, what did he field? He fielded, the actual figures were Middle-earth. He had like this King of the Nazgul flying about on a fell beast. He had some kind of Mordor or more something or other orcs, more I don't know. Morador, I don't know what they were. These orcs, and he had some Haradrim, and a big cave troll guy as a bellicose foot, kind of a wild charging guy. Yeah, the Haradrim he had, they were like a light infantry, and I forget what he fielded. The field beast as some kind of flyer, but I got hammered. There was about half of his points was on this fell beast, the rest distributed amongst his others, and my counter charges were just not working. So when you charge at certain units, they get an opportunity, if they're well trained enough, they get an opportunity to counter charge or evade. So the light cavalry can evade, heavy cavalry get a counter charge. But if you don't get your counter charge, you really get caught on your back foot, and that meant I got pretty much chopped to pieces. Had some good moments and it came and went a little bit. My light cavalry were kind of running rings around his slower troops, and it was a really interesting game. And for a rule set that's so simple, it keeps revealing some gems of ideas. It keeps revealing them to me on every play. Initially, you could come from a game like Warhammer, look at this and think, well, there's no rules for this, there's none of this, that seems overly simple. But the more you play, these little nuances come through. They're just the little slightly different ways that units are equipped, slightly different rules that on the surface don't seem like a big deal. When you actually play, you start realising, oh wow, this is actually quite nuanced. And talking of nuance, that takes me into my final topic. This is the role-playing game that is ICRPG, our ongoing game. And I've got to say, guys, I don't feel like I'm really bringing my A game. I feel I'm missing some of the nuance of the ICRPG rules. We're session 14. I'm still forgetting key things, and I'm finding myself slipping in to like D&D-isms just because I've played so much of D&D over the years. It's really hard to break away and do justice to the ideas in ICRPG. There's a lot of feel in that system. I think there's a lot of intent behind how the rules have been written, and Hank talks a lot about the suggested ways to approach the game, especially if you watch his videos and you listen to him talk about his game. I just feel that I'm not doing it justice sometimes, and I don't know if that is impacting on people's appreciation or enjoyment of the game. I feel like it is. It's not a home run. I'm definitely not hitting a home run. We alternate games now, so every other week we're playing in Ravenloft, and I think that's still like everybody's favourite. Now, that's not to say I'm competing, but I just want to do the game justice. A couple of things that have worked out for me, or one thing in particular that's worked out for me, is running off the laptop. Previously, I have not been slick enough, but running with Google Slides, it's just week on week, I'm tweaking it. It seems to be getting better. I'm still running Monkey Isle, so I've downloaded the plain text, changed it into slides, so I've got a slide version of Monkey Isle. This is giving me my basic framework for the campaign, and with that, then I'm adding in slides. So I've got slides for all the monsters, so I've kind of got like a mini monster manual built into my slides. I've got rules from the game, charts and tables like the ICRPG loot tables, all in there. Other content from here and there. I've got Temple of the Monkey God. JD Sterling chucked me a complimentary copy of that. I've slimmed that down and got that down to, I think, 2 slides. I take notes in there. I've got the character sheets on separate slides. Stuff about weather and visibility. I was looking into visibility. It kind of annoyed me that I couldn't get my head around how far you can see at sea, and when can you see mountains? At what distance can you see, say, a really big mountain? At what point does the atmosphere hamper your vision on a clear day and stuff? So I did a little bit of research, and I'll boil it down to something more simple ultimately, but I just like to know this stuff so that I can then kind of be right, and then simplify it and cut back to something less kind of granular, if you like. But I just like to know, and I think this is something probably a lot of us do. By playing RPGs, we've increased our interest in maybe science or geography or history, how do things work, and this is a great selling point as an educator to get people involved in the game. You've got your numeracy and your literacy that I've talked about, and also the way it broadens your mind and your interests, not to be ignored, I think. And I feel like that sums it up. That's where I'm at, guys. Struggling on. I don't know what the answer is. I think I just need a bit more experience and time playing a different system, break out of my old rut. And yeah, you know me, I like to push the envelope a little bit. I like to try and do a decent job of things that I'm involved in. And yeah, I feel I'm turning in a bit of a lacklustre performance at times. Also, to be fair, I'm trying to be a little bit more improvisational, in keeping with Hank's recommendations. He's put them loot tables there, and he urges you to, come with an open mind and let the story unfold and be meta and get the players involved. So there's a lot of things stylistically that are a bit of a departure for me, and all the time I'm looking to cut down on the preparation. I could sit and prepare a lot, but I don't have the time, and I think sometimes some of my better ideas come about as a result of improvisation, and I want to develop that skill more, and I don't want to over prepare. I've put the time up front. I've invested time up front to get this huge slide deck together, but it's like this, just a Rolodex of index cards, adding to it as we play. More notes, NPCs appear, they go on the slides, and it develops, and it's this kind of organic, evolving thing. But there you go. I was going to wrap it up, then I got sidetracked again. I'm waffling. That's it. Big thanks to my patrons over on the Spike Pit Patreon. And a big thanks, of course, for you, the listener, taking time out of your day to listen to old Spike Pit. Take care, and I'll catch you later.